Hey everybody. So starting to drizzle and rain, so I'm just being prepared because this storm looks like it's looming. All right, so finally getting to my walk. It's been a lot of activity today, but I just wanted to talk about return on investment and kind of give you a perspective. It's just not working right now. Okay, so just want to give you a perspective, and that is when we buy something, and I'm going to give you an example, we have this idea about how much we're willing to spend on something, and based on the quality, the quantity, what the purpose of the item is. So I'm just going to use an example. So normally, if you think about flip-flops, a pair of shoes, or classified as sandals, flip-flops, most people will buy the rubber kind that have, that are pretty cheap, and you go to the beach and you buy them one time and maybe it'll last you a season. Usually the thing that goes in between your toes, that'll pop out of the shoe, and they're not designed or made to last that long, right? But if you take care of that particular cheap brand of a flip-flop, it may last you many years because you take care of it, and you just wear it only when you go to the beach, or for example, right? But when you want a flip-flop that's like a walking sandal or a walking shoe, then you might want to have arch support, and you might want it to be a more durable material, and you're thinking, well, I probably am going to have to spend more money for something like that because I'm going to go this way. I probably have to spend more money for that because, it's a better quality made shoe. And so, I think the first time I bought this pair of shoes, I think it was somewhere in the 75 to 100 range, something like that, for this particular flip-flop. And I remember cringing because it was I had only spent money on those cheap flip-flops that you go to the beach, or maybe the most expensive pair was $20 for Havanas or something. But this was a serious investment for a flip-flop, at least the first time I purchased it, right? And again, I looked at the testimonials that were on the website, and I went to one of these specialty shoe stores, Van Dyke and Bacon, in order to buy the flip-flops. And so it was I liked the customer service in the store. I liked that it was real personal service. I liked that, the person, cared for the shape and size of my foot, and gave me pointers about, all these different types of sandals, not just the flip-flops I was thinking and considering. So in the end, I purchased a pair of flip-flops, and my foot size is 7. And I ended up purchasing a size 8 flip-flop. Now, at the time, I don't remember doing that. Maybe they were out of a 7. You know what I mean? I don't even remember. But the point is, over all these years of me wearing a size 8 flip-flop, I have to admit that they are the most comfortable flip-flops I've ever had. I will wear these things all the way down until it's freezing cold outside, and I'll still be wearing them because they're so comfortable and they're great for walking. And the point is that if I had not had an experience of investing in this particular brand of flip-flops, I think it's called Viacom or Vionic, that's it. If I had not invested in a quality brand, I would be sharing the same story of, oh yeah, those flip-flops, they only lasted one season. Or, oh yeah, I slipped and slid and fell on my butt, and yeah, those things are just a piece of crap. I wouldn't recommend that, a cheap flip-flop. But it's when I had the experience of all these years of having these whatever they're called, Vionic flip-flops, okay? So, long story short, I'm wearing these flip-flops, and this was earlier in the season, and the glue started to come apart, and I tripped in these flip-flops. Now, mind you, I've had these flip-flops since 2010, okay? And I've been wearing them since 2010, and it's 2023. So that's a long time. That's a 13-year investment on a pair of flip-flops that have given me a lot of walking and a lot of, travel in this one pair of flip-flops. So when I look at the $75 or $100, somewhere in the $75 to $100 range to purchase the original pair of flip-flops, and it lasted over 13 years, and I don't have a calculator in front of me, and I'm not a math person, but you get what I'm saying. If you divide that out, it's like I hardly spent any money, but these flip-flops have lasted a long duration, and I've been very happy with the purchase of these flip-flops, and I would say I have a good return on my investment. I would say it was a good purchase, right? So as I was investigating the we've got a grumpy little dog in the background. Okay, so as I was noticing that these flip-flops that have lasted for 13 years, that the sole was starting to come apart. Me thinking, oh, let me do a DIY thing. I bought some kind of glue and I stuck them together, and maybe I didn't hold them in the clamps long enough, but they fell apart. And then I took them to my shoe guy, and in order for him to repair these shoes, he was like, that's going to be $25. And because, again, I'm like, well, I made a real investment in these flip-flops. They've lasted so long. I might as well spend this $25 with this specialty glue. And he's going to hold them in his, things to make it stick or whatever. And okay, so I made the investment. I think it was $22 for the glue. And so he glued up my flip-flops, and I started wearing them again. And, they don't look as perfect because they're pretty well worn out. But I'm like, if I'm going on a trail and I'm walking, or I'm just outside, like, it's not like a date shoe, if you will, but the point is they're very comfortable. So then the other day I was walking and I tripped, and I was like, man, and then I looked at the sole again, and the part of it is starting to come apart. And so it was like another warning, like it's time to make another investment. And I'm still like trying to find a way to, save and hold on to this pair because they're so comfortable and so worn in, right? And so, long story short, I was on a trail the other day and doing my walk, and I was wearing my very expensive investment of a pair of tennis shoes. And this pair of tennis shoes was $200, okay? And they were recommended by my podiatrist for my back injury, for my foot injury, et cetera, et cetera. So it was like a medical recommendation, okay? So I made this $200 investment a couple months ago in these very expensive, orthotic tennis shoes, whatever. And every time I wore them, it was like I just couldn't wait to get them off. And not that I wanted to stop my walk or anything, but it was just like those particular shoes, I was like, man, there's something wrong with these. But again, I wasn't sure if I was just fatigued from the long walk or hike that I had done, or if it was actually the shoes, or if it was a combination. So then the next time I went out, I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna wear my comfortable, like sneakers. Like, they have no support, they're just comfortable, they're just like, old school kind of, tie-up lace tennis shoes. And I think I bought them for $5 at Marshall's or something. But the point is, I just wanted to wear them, so I wore those. And then again, like, I noticed how my feet were like really tired, and I was like, man, maybe I really need to wear these orthotics, so I wore them again. So the next time I wore them again, I had blisters on my feet from where the shoes were rubbing. And I'm just debating, like, man, I invested $200 and some in these tennis shoes, and I really don't want to not wear them. And at the same time, I don't like the outcome that I got blister on the back of my heels. So I was like, well, I'm going to have to remember to get the receipt, find it, take it back, etc. So I'm sorry about this long story, but I am getting to the point, actually. It's coming up. So yesterday, I wore these same expensive orthotic tennis shoes to go for my walk. It was a 3-mile walk yesterday. And during the walk, like I was really realizing like I'm in so much pain. Like whatever these shoes are doing, the way that they're pinching me, it just isn't right. And again, I took off my shoe and I realized both feet had blisters on my toes and on the back of my heels from these brand new expensive shoes. I was like, so I end up, as soon as I get to a spot where there's grass, I end up taking off the shoes and I grounded and walked barefoot the rest of the walk because I was like, these shoes are just not, something's not right. Now, normally I would have driven back home, scoured through receipts, made sure I had a receipt, gone back to the store, etc., etc. But I was like, you know what? I am going to the store right now with my blisters and my feet looking as horrible as they do right now. And I'm going to the store. I'm going to show them this is what the fitted, person who fit my feet, this is how they fit my feet. So I went into the store and this elderly gentleman helped me. And he was like, wow, yeah, that doesn't look like that's very comfortable. I said, no, it isn't. And he's like, let's resize your feet. So he gets out this measuring shoe thing. And he's like, you really need a wide. And I'm like, that's what I told the salesman when I came in here. I said, that's not what I have. He goes, no, you have a narrow. Now here's the bottom line. Did my foot fit in the shoe? Yes. When you're trying out something new and you're not familiar with how orthotics work, because I never had an orthotics thing before. You're trying out something new and I'm going, well, the arch of my foot feels good, but my toe feels like it's hitting the toe box and my heel is getting totally cut up in the back because of the shape of the shoe. So he's like, let me see if I have a wide version in your size. So he goes in the back, comes out with that and another choice. And he goes, why don't you try this on? So I try it on. And he's like, take a little roam around the floor. And it was like night and day. It just so comfortable. Like, again, it's just like, it just shows you that like, you think, you know that something is comfortable. Like I thought those shoes were comfortable. But then as soon as I get the proper size that's wider, like it was so much more comfortable. So I was like, that feels a world different. I'm like, it really feels better. And so, he's like, okay, well, let me ring you up. And I said, well, before you do that, I said, I want to talk about how bad my feet are right now. And you see the evidence. And I said, I didn't fit myself. I came in here and asked a professional to fit me in an orthotic shoe because I had never had them before. This is what your guy fit me in. And I said, and this is the result and outcome. And he goes, but you've worn the shoes. I said, yes, I have. And I said, but here's the bottom line. If I'm going to invest $200 in a pair of shoes, I want to be fitted correctly. And your guy did not fit me correctly. So I'm not paying for these shoes, but I am walking out with this brand new pair of shoes that are the correct size for my feet. And he said, let me go check. So he wanted to verify my last name and verify where I live and verify that I actually made the purchase in that store. And once he made that verification, he's like, because again, I didn't bring my receipt in, but it was all in the records. And we're talking about a small, boutique-y type of, shoe store. It's not like, there's hardly I'm the only person in the store at this time. So anyway, he verifies it and he says, yeah, I can do that for you. I can, just comp these out. And I said, I really appreciate that. Now here's the deal. Because he comped me out, the tennis shoes that pinched my feet, that were fitted by a professional in his store, and he was willing to take responsibility for fitting me incorrectly and not charging me because I shouldn't have been charged. At that point, knowing that my flip-flops were really on their last days, I said, do you still have the Viacom flip-flops? And he said, yes, I do. And I said, could you bring out a couple pairs so that I can try and consider whether I want a 7 or an 8. So he brought them out, and I made my decision and I got the flip-flops. Now, was I willing to spend and invest again like $79 on a pair of flip-flops? The answer is yes, because that one pair of flip-flops has lasted me 13 years. Okay, and I mean, like, I wear these flip-flops like every day, and really I'm hard on them. I've done construction in them, painted in them, like, just I've worn them, like, I've hiked in these flip-flops. I know it's crazy, but I have. So anyway, I was like, I really appreciate all that. So the bottom line is, I ended up getting a new pair of tennis shoes at no cost. I ended up getting a new pair of flip-flops at the cost, but knowing that they're going to last me another 10 or 15 years because the other pair did. And I'm saying that these two items were a good return on my investment. And what I mean by that is, if I would have gone to, let's just say, one of those normal, like, discount shoe places where you can get a pair of Nikes or Adidas or something, but they're discounted, which is what I normally would have done. The point is, they're not going to have customer service. They're not going to fit your foot. They're not going to treat you like a person. You go in there with a worn pair of shoes and blisters on your feet, and they're going to laugh at you and be like, no, and that's the conglomerate. That's like the corporate mentality of like not giving a shit about anybody. Okay. But this store, Van Dyke and Bacon, they have, I would call it like a Nordstrom kind of philosophy. Like, they're going to serve their customers. They're going to make sure that they're satisfied, and they're actually offering personal service. So it's worth it to make that investment, because it was worth it that I was able to do what I was able to do. So am I going to give kudos to Van Dyke and Bacon? Yes. Am I going to give kudos to the brand of shoe that I ended up liking on my feet? Yes. I'm sorry, I can't remember the name of it right now. It's like Numbers or something. But the point is that I'm just trying to illustrate that you have to make an investment in order to reap the rewards of the investment. And if your investment is a solid investment, and the company stands by their word and by their integrity, then you're going to be pleased that if something goes wrong with your product and that you're dissatisfied, whether it's the fit or the cut or whatever, that the customer service of the company, in this case Van Dyke and Bacon, and the customer service of the shoe company, whatever brand it was that I ended up liking and choosing, the point is that the company stood by it, the product stood by it, and then in the end, it's like win-win-win. I'm a happy customer, the store is a happy store, the company that makes the shoe is a happy, company. So it's like, all in all, it's like win-win-win. And again, I come back to, is it more expensive? Yes, it is. It was not like the same example where I started with the flip-flop. If you spend $10 on a pair of cheap flip-flops, you're going to get a $10 result. You're not going to get customer service like that. You get what I'm saying? But it's when we make an investment in something, and I'm just going to say generally, let's just say $100 and up. If the investment is $100 and up, there's a better and a more a more quality outcome than if you didn't make that type of investment. So that's what I have to say on that. All right. I hope that helps someone to just understand return on investment, and just, how sometimes it is important to lay the cash up front, so that you're going to get the long-term customer service down the road. So I hope that helps. Have a good day, everybody.